Okay, perfect. Okay, feels so weird. It feels like I'm in a university lecture. Okay, so I've already spoken to some of you guys as well before about how to structure sales. So I'm just going to cover everything as if you guys are like starting from scratch. Is that cool? So like everything from the ground up, assuming you've never done sales before. So this is going to be about how you can start to do sales to get your first set of customers paying, ideally. So let's get straight to it. So I'm going to start with mindset because I think that's probably the most important part about sales. The biggest mistake that a lot of people have is they think that they're too good for sales, or I have to be an extrovert to do sales. And that's not actually true. In fact, actually, if you're an introvert and you're like an engineer, you can actually do sales really, really well because you know your product better than everyone else, right? You know your product as an engineer. So if you don't have to be this like a Wolf of Wall Street sort of Jordan Belfort type of person to actually sell. You can be a normal person. You can be your authentic self. In fact, the best salespeople, especially in a B2B context, aren't trying to sell you. They're just trying to solve a problem or figure out if they can even help you. That's the main thing. You're going on to these, if you go into a sales call, your goal isn't to, most people think, oh, I have to close, I have to close, I have to close. Sure, you definitely, if you can get to that point, yes, but you actually just want to see if you can solve a core problem for that person. That's it, right? If you can't solve that problem, then and you close that person, you've just ruined your relation. You just ruined your reputation because now you just come across as a person who will do anything it takes to get a deal done without giving a damn about the after effects. So that's the first thing. The second is mindset around shame. A lot of people are afraid to go pick up the phone and start dialing or go and reach out to someone because it feels icky, right? You're going out there, you're putting yourself out there and talking to different people about how you can actually, oh, we're good. Putting yourself out there about your product. It feels weird, but there's a mindset that could be really helpful, which is a mindset of having no shame. So don't have any shame about doing anything that's scrappy. Like when I used to start off, actually, what I used to do is I used to just go on, before I even had a product, I'd literally just go on Reddit and just DM every single person I could find. Just go on like as many like r/sales channels as I could, and then just DM every single person that was like, I was like, hey, are you an account executive? Hey, are you an SDR? Hey, are you a sales manager? Open a chatting, and then just start having a back and forth conversation. So first thing is that you don't need to be Jordan Belfort. You'll be an extrovert. You can be yourself. You're just trying to solve a problem. You're trying to be consultative, not a used car salesman. There's no shame. There's no ego. There's no pride. It's literally just a game of iterate, get to the truth as fast as possible, and try to get to a point where your value prop actually makes sense for your audience, right? So there's that, and there's also I say the final piece around mindset I'll just quickly cover is detachment. A lot of people get really, really demoralized when it comes to sales because of the fact that they just get rejected a bunch, right? Or they're going into a cold call or they're going into a sales call with the assumption that something has to happen. If you go into a mindset of, oh crap, every time I remember picking up the phone and having to do a cold call and saying, okay, I have to get this person to book a meeting. I have to get this person to book a meeting. If I had that talk track going on in my head, I'd never book a meeting. Because what happens is when you have that mindset that you have to get something done or have to have an outcome happen, you become desperate. That desperation comes across in your tonality and the way you carry yourself to a prospect, right? And no one wants to give money to a guy who really needs it. They want to give money to the guy who doesn't need it. So detach from the outcome as much as you can. When you have a detached mindset and you are not focused on having to accomplish a specific outcome, you focus on the customer more. And when you focus on the prospect or the customer more, you actually come across as someone who wants to solve their problems. And as a result, they're going to trust you more. And if they trust you more, they're actually more likely going to buy from you or at least take you on as a consultant because they're listening to what you have to say. So I'm not like, oh, my thing is so good. My thing is so great. You need to buy this product. It's no, actually, hey, this is actually a fit for you. This isn't a fit for you. They're going to take your word more. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about was mindset. So be detached from the outcome at all costs. If you need to attach to something, attach yourself to the process. So for example, when I used to pick up the phone, I remember like when I was starting out, when I started to do cold calling, I literally could not speak. I would stutter. So like I'd have a talk script and I'd be like, or like if someone threw an objection at me, I'd be literally frozen. because I was, again, attached to the outcome, I have to book a meeting. So something that you can do is fall in love with the process, not the outcome. So instead of saying, I have to book 5 meetings this week, I have to just do 10 cold calls today. That's it. Easy, low pressure. Build your self-esteem over time. You don't have to beat yourself up if you don't hit a certain outcome, because that outcome isn't even in your control anyway. The only thing you can control is what you put in to the system. That's it. You can't control this. Someone could be in a really pissy mood, and that's not your fault, right? Someone could literally have no budget because they just bought another competitor's solution. That's not your fault. That just happens to be the circumstance. But if you attach yourself to the outcome, you're going to end up beating yourself up. You're going to demoralize yourself. You're going to destroy your self-esteem. And self-esteem is such a crucial part of, one, being a founder, and two, being a great salesperson. So that's what I wanted to quickly share around mindset. Number 2 is going to be around the actual sort of fundamentals of, now we're going to get into a little bit nitty-gritty tactics of cold outbound. Okay, so how many of you guys have actually sort of defined what your ideal customers look like? Just a show of hands quickly. Okay, so you guys have got that? Okay, great. Sweet. How, do you mind me asking, how have you guys sort of done that? Like, how are you doing that? Are you doing that more so on the surface level, like job titles, headcount, that sort of thing? Or is there any other sort of details? Go ahead. Very detailed? Okay. Okay. So you've gone really, really deep to understanding that very specific person. Okay. I think that's really good, especially on a sales call, because then you deeply understand that persona better than anyone else. From a targeting perspective, honestly, there's sort of 2 levels that you can start to think about at this stage. One is surface level. So job titles, headcount, location, that sort of thing, the technographics that you can find online anywhere. The second is going to be signals. So for example, let's say example, you're selling a recruiting product and you see that a founder has just raised a Series A. If they've just raised capital, they're probably going to need to deploy that for hiring. That's a good signal for the timing. So one is technographic, so basic level if you don't have any signals. And then on level on top of that is actually more signal driven. So there's specific trigger points that are actually going to resonate more with timing. So if you can't find the second, which by the way is really difficult to do, very few people can get that right. You kind of just have to start with the first level. That's okay. So that's audience. Now, when it comes to cold outbound, especially B2B, there's really 3 channels that make the most sense: cold calling, email, LinkedIn. Those 3. If you just focus on those 3, that's fine. You can do other stuff too. Like, there are people that I know who do like Instagram DMing and stuff. Yes, that works. Or Reddit. I've done that, especially pre-product. That's fine. You can do that. It's just less organized because there's a lot less technographic data there. Like, if you go on, try to do Instagram DMs, and you're trying to sell to, I don't know, chief marketing officers, it's pretty unlikely that they're going to actually have chief marketing officer at that company, right? So it's like, it's a bit difficult to get that technographic data, but on LinkedIn, everyone's already got that on there. So you can't, I would say, starting with those sort of 3 channels first. So now, how many of you have actually ever done a cold call before? You've done a cold call? How did it go?
It went well. I think for me, in terms of when you're saying, so if I'm speaking to therapists, it helps me be like kind of modality that my product is best suited for.
Okay.
So that was like CBT, DBT.
Okay.
And through cold calling, and also through cold calling, I was able to understand whether that was the right therapist for the product.
Right.
They would just openly say, like, I don't work in that way. I don't assign tasks. I don't do that. But this is better. And that was quite helpful to them finding us.
Okay, great. Okay, so you were doing it sort of when you were still figuring out what your persona was looking like, more than sort of after. Okay. 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 You two as well. You guys raised your hands as well, right? What was your experience like? It was hard. Were you still figuring out your persona profile, or was it very defined already? Okay. And Jeff as well? Okay. Okay, no, that's helpful. So here's the thing. I've just shared the 3 core channels that people use. Not every single one of them is going to be right for your audience. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try it. You should try everything. Try everything that can work, right? For some people, when they think about direct outreach, like I've just shared those 3 things. But let's say, example, you are selling to farmers. You can't just go and send a LinkedIn request to them. They're not going to give a damn about that. You have to go in person. So sometimes outreach as a whole is so broad. I am very focused on calling, cold emailing, LinkedIn, but that doesn't mean to say that other methods can't work. It's really about what can you do to get in front of your audience, whatever that is. If your audience is like a tightly knit, like in Illuminati style circle, right? They're not going to give a damn about a cold email, right? It's like if you're trying to go to VCs, right? Like you need to, so it's like you have to kind of be in this sort of clique almost, right? Then maybe you just need to attend more networking events. Maybe going to network is better than doing cold outreach in that sense. It's really just understanding your audience in a deep level and where you can meet them. Meet them where they're at. Don't start meeting them in different places or forcing them. Like if I was trying to cold call IT directors, they're never picking up. Engineers hate talking to salespeople. They absolutely despise it, right? But if I go and do a cold call to a founder, more open to it because they're in the same boat. So try to meet your audience where they are. I'll quickly. How many of you guys want me to? Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Yep.
How do I approach the conversation with those people who are going to have to learn about the space? I'm going to have to
build your business. Yeah. Yeah.
How would you take that?
I would, if you're going to events to try to go for the sale, delay as you want to. So, okay, I didn't intentionally. Yeah. Okay. So the way that I would think about this is don't try to extract value, try to give value first, immediately. So for example, if I'm going to an event, for example, and I'm meeting founders who I think could be in my ideal customer profile, the last thing I'm doing, I'll mention what I do very briefly at the end. But what I'll do is, oh, nice. I'll ask them questions that are on the sort of discovery level, like, oh, how are you thinking about X, Y, Z? Like, how do you, like, for example, if I'm doing it for my own, I'd say, hey, how are you thinking about outreach, or how are you thinking about growing the company? Have you tried like ads or anything like that? And then they'll tell me the answers and I'll say, oh, nice. It's interesting. And just try to solve a specific problem for them. If you give value first, give, and then ask, you're more likely to get a sale rather than going in there and be like, hey, can you buy my thing? It's like, yes. No, yeah. no, that makes sense. Okay, so then I would just try to break down the guard as much as possible. The thing is when you go to these networking events, to some degree, some people know that they're going to get pitched to some level. So if you can break down that guard and just try to get to know them on a deeper relationship, just try to focus on building the relationship. When it comes to in-person events, LinkedIn, or social networks in general, focus on relationship building. The only 2 channels I've really seen that work well for just going and directly pitching is literally just cold call and email. I'm sure you can do direct mailing as well, but if you are going to these events and your goal is to book the meeting, go in with that in the back of your mind, but front load with as much value as possible. So if they're talking about something, get to know them a bit more and let them talk as much of it about themselves, right? And then very slightly just nudge the conversation piece by piece. This is what I tell, like what we do for like our LinkedIn clients. We just go, okay, we send the first message, break the ice. It's not about anything to do with us. It's everything to do with them. And then inch by inch, just keep nudging the conversation towards what you do. And eventually their guard is broken down enough that you can actually go in for the ask. Now, it does take a lot of practice. It does take a little bit of tweaking, especially in person. And if there's anyone who screws that up more times than anyone, it's definitely me. So you're not going to get it right first time. But if you go in with the mindset, I'm going to give value, you're going to end up finding that you'll receive as you give, if that makes sense. Cool. Okay, so how many of you are thinking about doing cold email? Okay, all of you. Okay, most of you. Okay. I'll go into some of the core fundamentals of cold email really, really quickly. There's 4 things you need to know about getting cold email done really well. Deliverability, messaging, audience, positioning. Just those 4. So deliverability is, can you actually reach that person's inbox. Every 6 months, the big mail providers do change up how they manage their spam filters. For example, many years ago, you could track open rates without landing in the spam folder. How many of you guys are familiar with open rates? No? Okay, a little bit. Okay, cool. So open rates are basically like, let's say you send an email, somebody opens that email, you get a notification to say that person's basically read your email, right? The way that used to work is inside of an email, there's like this 1 pixel invisible dot, which has a link, which pings to a server. So whenever that email is opened, this image is rendered, and that lets the server know that, oh, this person's read the email. However, in 2024, Google basically killed that because with Gemini, they've been able to detect that to see, oh, it's a hidden image. So whenever you're trying to track open rates, you'll see a banner from Google saying, this email contains hidden images. Would you like to report a spam? And there's a big button. You just need 3 people out of 1,000 to actually do that, and to mark you in spam, and you're cooked. 3 out of 1,000. It's a very, very low bar for error. So deliverability. So some of the core fundamentals about deliverability. 1, don't ever do cold outreach with your main email and your main inbox, main domain. If your domain is acme.com, get a different domain like tryacme.com or joinacme.com or whatever your product is. Let's say you're selling, again, recruiting tools. So joinacmehr.com or something like that, right? .com, .info, .org, domains are fine. Outside of that, deliverability gets worse. 2, whenever you set up a separate domain, set up 3 to 4 email inboxes per domain, right? So typically I found that Google Workspace works the best for deliverability. I have tested Outlook. It's a bit bad if I'm being honest. SMTP is the worst. So if you can avoid it, it is the cheapest, but it is the worst. So go for Google inboxes. They have the best deliverability. Okay. And the reason why you want to do 3 to 4 inboxes per domain is if one domain gets screwed, you're fine. You've got a bunch of other inboxes on other domains that are completely fine. Now, before you do cold outreach, it's super important that you go through a process called warming up. Now, warming up, if you're not familiar with it, is imagine you have this massive network of email inboxes that have just been created for cold outreach. They're all basically pinging back and forth with copy, either copy that you intend to use or copy that is just random, just to go back and forth with replies between inboxes. So I might send an email to you, for example, saying, hey, Zahor, the sky is green and the chocolate milk was lovely. And then that's like a completely AI generated message. Obviously, I didn't send that manually. And then your inbox might automatically reply saying, yes, Sunday sounds brilliant. Just something random, right? Like, obviously, that's like the lowest form of warm up. If you can test your actual copy, that's the best. But you want to do that for 2 weeks so you can build up something called a sender reputation. What a sender reputation is think of it like a credit score, right? You've just got a credit card, you've got no credit score, or you got like something like in the middle, right? If you start to spam a bunch of outreach and get no responses, you're going to basically be seen as a spammer. Your reputation goes down. If you start sending emails and you get some replies that say 25 to 30%, that's reasonable. You start to increase your reputation as a sender, not as a spammer. Now, the final thing about deliverability is you want to have as low of a sending volume per inbox per day as possible. I try to keep it to about 10, roughly 10 per inbox per day. So that way you're not going to be risking spam. Some people like to do 20, but I think that's a bit too much. I think you were definitely landing in the spam folder at some point. Avoid sending in your emails, your first emails. Don't send images, links, or attachments inside your emails either, including your email signature. If you do that, then sure, maybe the first couple of emails will go through, but over time, as you keep sending more emails out, you'll be recognized as a spammer. You'll land in a spam folder. Avoid it. Okay? So that's deliverability. 2 is messaging. Now, you've probably seen emails where there's like 10 paragraphs of just a wall of text. Terrible. Avoid it. Keep your emails as short as possible. Get to the point. And if it's readable on a phone, it's great. If you're sending them out manually and you're not using an automation software, that's fine. But just before you send it off, just make sure that if you receive, just a good heuristic, especially if you're starting out, is if you received this email, would you actually respond to it? If the answer is no, figure out why. Right? Now, here's a general structure I realize that we're short on time, so I'll just try to get through this as quickly as I can. But a general structure that can be really helpful is greeting, hey name, or hi name, whatever, personalization blended with a pain point. So something that's relevant to them, saying, for example, if you're reaching out, if I go back to that founder who just raised a Series A, for example, you can say, hey Marco, congrats on raising the Series A, and then blend it back into the pain point. Typically, I find with founders that have just raised a round that they're going to start thinking about hiring in the following functions. And then next solution, teasing your solution, saying, we help founders by getting you go-to-market hires at a fractional rate or something like that, whatever your value proposition is. And then finally, a call to action. Your call to action, most people just go with, oh, can we have a chat for 15 minutes? Don't do that. I'll get into positioning later, but you want to make it so compelling that people have a reason to say yes. So I'll get into, that's where positioning comes in, but just as a high level overview, greeting, personalization blended with a problem, solution, call to action, and then you can just end off with your signature, right? Plain text email only. Does anyone have any questions on any of that first before I go on? Does that seem to make sense for everyone? Okay, sweet. Okay, cool. Next, let's talk about audience and ICP. You guys have already cleared that, so that's all good. And then the final piece is literally just about positioning. So what I was talking about with that call to action is most people go, oh, can we have a chat for 15 minutes sometime this week? Or 30 minutes this week? No, that's not interesting. Most people focus entirely on them. They don't focus on the other person. So what I want you to do is when you think about cold outreach, don't look at yourself, about what you do and why you're so great. Focus entirely, nobody gives a damn about how many years of experience you have. No one cares. Like, why do I care? Focus on their problems. Focus on something that's really interesting. Build a sense of FOMO. So for example, if I was targeting IBM and I said, hey, I saw that Apple's doing X, Y, Z. Do you want to take a look? Yeah, that's interesting. Or like if I say your direct competitor is doing something that you are not and they're getting ahead of you and I can show you exactly how you can get ahead, that's interesting. That's FOMO. You'd be crazy to say no. So that's where positioning comes in. It's really, really important. So I'll give you another example. We have a client in Malaysia. Yeah, okay, no worries. We have a client in Malaysia. They do like landing page designs, for example. So before they used to send out cold outreach saying, hey, we can do a new landing page for you and it'll help to increase your conversions and all of this nonsense, right? It's like, yeah, sure, you can promise the moon and the stars, but you're probably going to be crap on delivery because unfortunately, most people, especially if you're in a competitive space, do underperform and they do underdeliver. So what we did instead for them is we reframed the positioning so it looks like they've already done the work for them. Now, it meant changing their sales funnel, which I'll explain in a bit, but we basically said, hey, we've built you a new landing page, and I think it can get you an extra couple percent in terms of your conversion rate. Would you be open to looking at what I've built? Not, can I have 15 minutes of your time to speak about something that I could hypothetically do, but I've already done the work for you. You just have to look at it. Completely different positioning, completely different offer. And as a result of that, they got like 5 booked meetings within the space of like a week and a half, which is pretty great. And their average conversion rate is about 20. Their average deal size is about 20K. So that was great. 100K in pipeline within a week and a half, which is pretty great. So that's where it comes down to offer/positioning. Put yourself in a position where that person, the way that I normally frame it to our clients is make your offer so good that people would feel stupid saying no to. What can you do to make it so compelling and so obvious that if they don't do it, they're literally an idiot. They're committing business suicide by not listening to you. If you can compel that emotion within them, you're more likely to get a conversion. Go ahead.
Presumably, in a lot of these cases, you're not actually building a landing page before they say they will.
No.
You then build it afterwards.
Correct. Yeah, so their sales funnel afterwards is if they got someone to say yes, they instead of booking a meeting, let's say within a couple of days, they needed their designers to give a bit of time. So they booked it a week out to give their designers a bit of time. They built the landing page, and then their sales calls went a bit differently. They said, oh, here's the work that we did. Here's how we help other clients like Red Bull and Spotify, etc. And then they started going into their pitch. So yeah, you can change your sales funnel based on your offer as well. And that can be a good thing sometimes. Okay, so that's at a high level, a really quick overview on cold email. Does anyone have any questions on any of that? Go for it. Yeah, so the 2 ways that I normally think about it are either you front load a ton of value, and that's only if your audience is a really receptive type of audience. So if you're going for founders, marketers, perfect, really receptive. But let's say you're going for more skeptical audiences like finance or ops. Instead of trying to front load value because they wouldn't care, I just try to lower the barrier of an ask. So instead of saying, let's say if I was doing a landing page example, I would say, can I send you a video walkthrough, like a 2-minute Loom video explaining how this works? That's like an easy barrier. They just have to say yes, right? If they're interested, right? Yeah, go ahead.
If, for example, you're using your personal email to email another personal email or like a non-business domain email, and you only do 10 emails a day, you still need to create multiple domains and inboxes.
So if you're targeting personal emails, okay. So I don't have a ton of experience.
Yeah, so I use my personal email to outreach therapists.
Okay.
To their email addresses, but sometimes it's just their own emails, so it's just their own personal emails as well. It can be like a business domain, but 80% of the time it's just their own emails.
Okay.
Does that also run the risk of going into spam if I were to only send 10 emails a day?
Yes. Yeah, it can. You should, if you can, at all costs, get separate domains and emails for this. The reason being is I get a ton of emails as well that go to from my Gmail that just land in spam, because there are a lot of scammers who do unfortunately use Gmail as a medium of just trying to sell their phishing links, I guess. So if you can, at all costs, get separate domains and emails.
Do you use any tools for the workout phase and also for the messaging and following up? Any other?
Yeah, so let me pitch you. No. Yeah. So I mean, we do everything internally at Prospect AI. It's just everything's in house and everything's done by our own systems. You can get separate systems in place if you just Google email warm up services. You can find something online. If you can avoid paying for it, I would. Or if you do have to pay, I know that there are some sort of smaller like mail providers like Smart Lead Instantly, where you can just pay like $30-$40 a month. And you can use their warm up for free. So that's like a really simple hack you could use. But yeah, if you can avoid paying for it, I would recommend that. Go ahead.
Going from knowing you to buying from you, so it is more depends on building customer journey to be on that, rather than emailing them and calling them and they say, I think that's not really work, because sometimes you're as a customer you're searching about the things you're seeing the review. You should more be careful about the sites that they go to see the review. They go to go and search about you. So it's more about the customer journey.
Okay, so the question is basically for B2C, you want to focus. How do you focus on building relationships with your customers without pitching them through traditional cold email? So the best medium I can think of off the top of my head would probably be content and newsletters. That's probably the best thing. If you have someone that's on your email list already and you're sending them a newsletter, that's a different type of email. I should clarify. There's two types of emails. There's transactional emails and there's promotional emails. Do you use Gmail by any chance? Okay, so do you know on like Gmail you have like a promotions tab? So that's basically where like newsletters and like promotional emails will come in. So those are like those emails are like an e-commerce website sending you something like with like a design on the email and stuff. That's where that sort of comes in. Transactional emails go into the primary inbox.
Mostly rely on the searching reviews, other people saying something. There is a momentum around the product that I want to be part of that, and this rather than just I never make a decision about any somebody just call me something by email and say, hey, this is interesting. We give you 50% discount to buy now.
Okay, so I think the thing you're basically saying is how do you get someone to convert through an email? Okay, so you're not actually trying, just to clarify, you're not trying to get a sale through an email. Nobody's buying that, like nobody, unless they've already like it's like an abandoned checkout for an e-commerce website. Your goal is to get them just to that next phase. And for B2B, I realize that's not what you're doing B2C, but B2B is just okay. Yeah, for B2C, in that case, what I'd say is you're better off honestly just going for newsletters and content channels so that way they can trust you over time because consumers are more fickle. With B2B, honestly, you're just you're not trying to sell them, you're not getting a deal done on that, especially if it is a higher ticket product, you're just trying to get them onto a meeting. So that's how I'd think about it. I think so, yeah.
what is the actually good market strategy for a B2C company or a networking social media company. But do you think, as a person that have background, do you think any specific innovation could be inside the go-to-market for the B2C company, like a social media company?
I don't think you have to reinvent things, but I will say that from what I'm, bear in mind, B2C is not my expertise, so take my advice with a grain of salt on this. I genuinely think that the best ways that I've seen other B2C founders go for it is either ads or content. One of those two. Now, with ads, e-commerce, like, yeah, fine, it makes sense because they're getting a physical product. With something like what you're doing, going for a sign up might be a really low ask. Even if you did cold outreach and you just said, hey, we're building out a wait list here, I thought this might be relevant to you because whatever persona, maybe it's like the student or whatever, would you be open to signing up for free? It's a bit of a low barrier ask. Otherwise, if the goal is to just get a sale directly as quickly as possible, then you need to build that trust up over time with content, I think. Or if you're delivering something physical, then you could run ads, but I wouldn't even do paid ads until you're at least 30K a month, because until you're at 30K a month, you're going to be pussyfooting ads massively because you need to be burning 2.5K a month at least just to test and learn, and it takes a while to learn. So yeah, that's how I'd say if you just make content just talking about it and just talk to other students and get them to refer you, that might be a better channel. Make content, share it with a handful of students, get them to be your salespeople and get their friends on it. That might be the best way. But I would study history from people who have actually built B2C companies and just try to copy what they've done. You don't have to reinvent the wheel for this. If sure. Yeah. Okay. If I was in your shoes, I would literally be optimizing for controversy and content, if I'm being completely honest, being super polarizing, getting attention at all costs, because it's B2C. Attention is all that matters in B2C. If someone's asking you to create a brand new innovative go-to-market strategy, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Just copy what people are doing. You don't have to be a genius in the beginning phase. You just have to figure it out over time. You're not going to be like this Napoleon Bonaparte of getting attention. You just have to test and learn. That's literally it. It's literally just a game of, and this is the same for B2B as well. It's literally just a game of throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks, and then going with that. That's literally it. So test and learn. That's the summary I'd probably give there. Any other questions before I jump into LinkedIn? Okay, cool. LinkedIn. All right, so earlier I talked a little bit about building relationships, about in person, right? Same goes for LinkedIn. How many times have you had somebody that's basically sent you a connection request, you've accepted it, and the first message they send you is a 10-paragraph wall of text as to why they're so great and why you need to book a call with them? Every day, yeah? How many times have you responded? There you go, exactly. The reason being is because they don't know you. LinkedIn is a social media platform, effectively. It's a social networking platform. If you're going to somebody completely cold, the way that I think about this is look at an insight about them or their company, point that out, and either share your own insight if you have one. If you don't, that's fine, move to the next step. Ask a question about said insight. So, for example, if someone posts on LinkedIn about, say, ads, for example, even if your domain is nothing to do with ads, but you're just trying to break the conversation, you can go ahead and just pique their interest about it, saying, hey, I saw your post about, you got 1,500, you managed to get a ROAS of 1,500. That's pretty crazy. I mean, got any advice on how you think about that? And then subtly nudge the conversation back, saying, oh, yeah, I was thinking, like, let's say, example, you're selling, I don't know, rocket. Let's say, example, you're selling, I don't know. I'm going to make up something here, but let's say you're selling, what's a good product? I don't know. Let's say you're selling earphones. I don't know. I'll just say that. It's stupid. It's not going to be B2B, but I'm just going to make something up here. What you can do is you can go to them, break the ice, and then just nudge it saying, oh, yeah, I was thinking about doing ads about this B2C product. What do you think? And just sort of break that conversation. every message that you send, though, just try to gently nudge it bit by bit towards getting to a meeting or nudging to what you do. And then when you finally get to that point where you can actually say what you do, be very subtle about it. Saying, oh, yeah, I've been building this for like a while. I guess that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, like, whatever the conversation's like, right? It's so case dependent. But just very subtly pitch it. And then ask them if they're open to taking a look down the line. But if you can, just try to delay the pitch as long as humanly possible, because people get pitched every single day. Very rarely do people focus on the other person. They just focus on me. I've got to hit 10 meetings this month. They don't focus on that other person. And if you're doing B2B, it is very relationship driven, ultimately. They're buying from you. Yes, they're trying to solve a problem, but they're buying from you as a person when there's other people they could buy from. So yeah, that's kind of just as a fundamental layer on doing some basic cold outreach. To find contacts, there are a bunch of contacts databases that you can use out there. Don't use a CRM for cold outreach. Just use it for storing contact data, tracking your deals. That's it. If you have to, get separate sending tools for different things. So get a sending tool for cold email, get something for LinkedIn if you want. Get a contacts database tool. If you get a contacts database tool, make sure that you verify the emails through a separate email verifier. So like something like zero bounce, never bounce, etc. So that way you don't land in spam. And then the only times that you don't need to do that is if they claim to be triple verified. In that case, you're fine. Yeah, that's pretty much everything that you need to kind of go from 0 to 1 with cold outbound.
I use not enough merch by Google, which is their second. Am I right to do like if it's not covered by Google, it won't go to spam?
No. It doesn't mean that, because if anyone can use it, then spammers could also use it too. You're better off honestly just getting a dedicated sending tool. Especially, what kind of volume are you doing roughly per day?
Like 10, 15.
Okay, then you should honestly be fine with you should be fine then. But then as you start to scale to like 100 plus a day over time, then you definitely want to get a dedicated sending tool.
A dedicated sending tool.
Yeah, for email outreach. Yeah.
So what does that look like?
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I mean, so a dedicated sending tool is basically a tool that is built just purely for cold outreach, not MailChimp or any of that stuff, but cold email specifically. So if it says that, yes, we're a cold emailing software, that's fine. If it says that we are a mass email software, like a MailChimp, for example, that's the wrong type of email, because that's more marketing rather than transactional emails.
Yeah, I'll be happy to see a demo.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. Yeah. Sponsored posts. Okay, so you're talking about content. I think it can work. Depends if your content is engaging and your audience is very engaged on LinkedIn. So in your case, let's say example, if you're selling to engineers, I mean, is that going to be particularly? Are they spending a lot of their time on LinkedIn? If the answer is yes, sure. If the answer is no, then don't bother. If you're selling to salespeople, for example, then yeah, they spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, or marketers. So you just have to figure out where your audience spends time. If they do spend time on LinkedIn, yes. If they don't, then don't bother burning money on that. Cool. Any other questions? No? All right. Cool. Well, hopefully that helps you guys get started. And yeah, let me know if you guys have any more questions.